Sir, your booking can't be verified.
Step away from the aircraft.
Excuse me?
Excuse me? You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career.
Sir, I need you to step off this aircraft. Right now. Nobody moved. Not the ground crew standing 20 feet back. Not the two men in black suits who had closed in from the left. Not the passengers watching from behind oval windows, faces pale against the cabin light. The only sound on that tarmac was the idle hum of the jet engine and the steady heartbeat of a man who refused to flinch. Marcus Webb stood at the base of the jet stairs, black t-shirt, duffel bag over one shoulder, eyes completely still. Sandra Cole, lead flight attendant, gold wings on her lapel, one finger pointed directly at his chest, was waiting for him to react, to raise his voice, to give her something she could use. He didn't give her anything. Marcus had stood in worse places than this. He had been in rooms where the ceiling was incoming fire, and the floor was someone else's blood. He had carried men out of places the world had already given up on. A private airfield outside Atlanta, Georgia, lit by a single floodlight, smelling of jet fuel and quiet money, was not the worst place Marcus Webb had ever been ordered to leave. But it was the most important one. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced down for exactly 1 second. The screen lit up with a name that stopped his chest cold. Maya, his 8-year-old daughter, calling from a hospital room 900 miles away, where in less than 7 hours a surgeon named Dr. Patricia Osei would open her chest and repair a heart that had been broken since birth. Maya didn't know what was happening on this tarmac. She just wanted to hear her father's voice, because if he heard her voice right now, small and hopeful and trusting, he wasn't sure he could hold it together. And Marcus Webb did not break. Not on this tarmac. Not in front of these people. Not tonight. Stay with me, because what Marcus Webb does in the next 60 seconds will get every single person on this tarmac fired before sunrise. Marcus reached slowly into the side pocket of his duffel bag. His fingers closed around a single folded document. Thick paper, corporate letterhead, a notarized seal pressed into the bottom corner. He didn't open it. He didn't need to. Not yet. He simply held it where Sandra Cole could see it. Her eyes dropped to his hand. The finger she had been pointing at his chest lowered. And for the first time on this tarmac, in front of all these witnesses, in front of the crew and the guards and the man watching from the oval window, Sandra Cole's expression changed. She was afraid. But this moment didn't start on a tarmac. It started 4 years ago, in a hospital room in Charlotte, North Carolina, with a promise Marcus Webb made to a woman who was running out of time. Dina Webb died on a Tuesday morning in March of 2020. Pancreatic cancer. She was 34 years old. Maya was 4. Marcus sat beside that bed for 11 days straight, sleeping in the chair, eating from vending machines, holding Dina's hand through the nights when the pain got loud and the medicine stopped being enough. In those final hours, when the room went quiet and the machine slowed, Dina turned her face toward him and said the last words she would ever speak to her husband. Don't let her grow up afraid of the world, Marcus. Show her it's worth fighting for. He has not forgotten a single syllable. Marcus Webb had spent 8 years in the United States Army, 101st Airborne, 3 tours across Afghanistan and Iraq. Decorated, discharged honorably in 2014 with a body that carried new scars and a mind that had learned to process chaos the way other men processed weather. After Dina died, he built Webb Capital Group from nothing. 4 a.m. mornings, closed doors, rooms where men looked at him twice before they looked at his portfolio. He built it anyway, stone by stone, deal by deal, year by year, until it stood tall enough to cast its own shadow. Maya, now 8 years old, had been diagnosed with a congenital heart defect at age 6. 2 years of monitoring, 2 years of watching his daughter run slower than the other kids and never once complain. 2 years of Dr. Patricia Osei at Johns Hopkins saying, "Not yet," until 6 weeks ago, when she finally said, "Now." The corrective surgery was scheduled for 7:03 a.m. Thursday morning. Dr. Osei had been direct with Marcus during their last call. "If you're not there before she goes under, I can't let her go in alone. She needs to see your face first." Marcus had booked this charter 3 weeks in advance. Confirmation number, signed charter agreement, seat assignment confirmed, payment fully processed. He had done everything right. He always did everything right. That was never the issue. What nobody on that tarmac knew, not Sandra Cole, not Captain Hargrove, not the men in the black suits, was that 14 months ago, Marcus Webb's firm had quietly acquired a 34% equity stake in Apex Charter Group, the company that owned this jet, this crew, this tarmac. His name was not on the door. Nobody at Apex's operational level had ever seen his face. They were about to. Marcus arrived at Hartsfield-Jackson Private Terminal B at 10:41 p.m. The terminal was the kind of place that didn't advertise itself. No signs on the highway, no public entrance, no crowds. Just polished marble floors, low amber lighting, and the quiet understanding that if you needed directions to find it, you probably didn't belong there. Marcus had been here before. He knew exactly where he was going. He checked in at the desk. Confirmation presented. ID verified. The receptionist, young, professional, careful, gave him a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes and told him the jet was boarding shortly. He nodded and turned toward the tarmac doors. 3 minutes later, Greg Patterson walked in. White, mid-50s, navy blazer, silver watch that caught the light when he adjusted his sleeve. He moved through the terminal the way certain men always move through spaces like this. Unhurried, unchecked, as though the room had been expecting him. The receptionist smiled before he even reached the desk. A staff member appeared from a side door and offered him a bottle of sparkling water. Nobody asked for his confirmation number. Nobody asked for his ID. He was escorted directly to the tarmac with a handshake and a nod. Marcus watched every second of it. He said nothing. At the base of the jet stairs, Sandra Cole descended to meet him. Her smile was the professional kind, assembled, not felt. Her eyes were already doing the math before he opened his mouth. "Sir, this is a private charter. Can I ask who you're booked with?" Marcus held up his phone. Confirmation number, charter agreement, seat assignment, all of it clean and documented. She looked at the screen longer than she needed to. "I'm going to need to verify this with our system. Do you mind waiting over by the terminal?" Then Captain Hargrove came down the stairs. Silver hair. The slow, heavy walk of a man who had never once in his career been asked to justify a decision. He looked Marcus over, one long, unhurried sweep, and whatever conclusion he reached it before a single word passed between them. "There may have been a booking error, sir. These things happen. I'd hate for you to end up on the wrong flight." Marcus held his phone out again. "Show me the error." Hargrove didn't look at the screen. He didn't need to. He had already decided. Marcus recognized this choreography. He had danced it in bank lobbies and boardrooms and city offices where men in good suits asked him 3 more questions than the man who walked in before him. His military training had taught him one thing above everything else: identify the threat, control the response, and never give them what they want. What they wanted was a reaction, a raised voice, a reason. He gave them silence. But the silence had a limit, because standing on that tarmac, with Maya's missed call still glowing on his phone screen, and 7:03 a.m. closing in like a wall, Marcus Webb made a quiet, absolute decision. He reached into his bag, and he said 7 words, low and steady, directly to Sandra Cole. "You have 30 seconds to reconsider that. If no one has ever looked at you like you didn't belong somewhere you paid for, count yourself lucky. Subscribe, because this story is just getting started. Sandra Cole did not move for 3 full seconds. Nobody did. The tarmac held its breath. Then Marcus opened the document. He unfolded it slowly, deliberately, the way a man unfolds something he has been carrying for a long time and never once doubted. Thick paper, corporate letterhead, a notarized seal pressed into the bottom right corner. He held it out to Sandra Cole at arm's length, steady as stone, and waited for her to take it. Her eyes moved across the first line, then stopped, then moved back to the beginning and read it again, slower this time, as though the words had rearranged themselves into something her mind refused to accept. Her hand dropped slightly. The gold wings on her lapel caught the floodlight. Captain Hargrove stepped forward from the top of the stairs. "What is that?" And Sandra didn't answer. She turned the page toward him without a word. The document read, Equity Transfer Agreement, Webb Capital Group, Apex Charter Group. Ownership stake 34%. Effective March 14th, 2023. Silent partner designation. Authorized signatory Marcus D. Webb. Marcus Webb owned a third of this jet, a third of this crew, a third of this tarmac they had just tried to remove him from. He let that land. Then he dialed one number. 2 rings. Raymond Cole, CEO of Apex Charter Group, no relation to Sandra, answered from what sounded like a quiet house and an interrupted sleep. His voice was low and careful. Marcus spoke 4 sentences. He did not raise his voice. He did not editorialize. He stated the facts the way a man states facts, when the facts are more than enough. Raymond said nothing for 3 full seconds. Then, "I'm 20 minutes out. Do not let anyone move." The wait lasted 19 minutes. What happened in those 19 minutes is its own story. Sandra attempted to speak twice. Marcus did not respond either time. Hargrove retreated to the top of the stairs, phone pressed to his ear, voice low, cycling through a chain of command that was not going to save him. The 2 men in black suits exchanged a look and took a single step back, the body language of men who were no longer certain which side of this situation they wanted to be standing on. Greg Patterson had not left the jet. His face was pressed slightly toward the oval window, watching. Marcus did one thing during those 19 minutes. He called Maya back. She picked up on the first ring. "Daddy, are you on the plane yet?" He kept his voice even, the way he had learned to keep his voice even in places far darker than this. "Almost, baby, almost." He did not tell her what was happening on this tarmac. Raymond Cole's black sedan rolled onto the tarmac at 11:41 p.m. Raymond stepped out, 61 years old, the kind of man who built things with his hands before he ever wore a suit. He did not look at Marcus first. He looked at Hargrove. He looked at Sandra, still holding the document. He looked at the security guards. He looked at the crew lined on the stairs. Then, finally, he looked at Marcus. "I'm sorry, Marcus." Then he turned, and one by one, Hargrove, Sandra Cole, both security guards, 2 crew members who had stood on those stairs and watched without a single word of objection. Raymond Cole removed them all. No raised voice, no ceremony. 11 minutes, every last one of them, gone. Marcus picked up his bag. He walked up the stairs. He boarded the jet. That moment right there, that is what accountability actually looks like. If this story needs to be heard, share it with someone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because what Raymond tells Marcus inside that jet will change everything you thought you understood about this night. Marcus had barely settled into his seat when Raymond sat down across from him, pulled out a tablet, and said 4 words that made the hair on Marcus's arms rise. "You weren't the first." The jet lifted off at 12:07 a.m. Below, the lights of Atlanta stretched and then shrank and then disappeared entirely, swallowed by the dark. Marcus sat by the window. Raymond sat across from him with the tablet open on his lap, its blue light cutting sharp lines across his face. Outside, there was nothing but black sky and the distant suggestion of stars. Raymond set the tablet on the seat between them. In the past 90 days, 3 other passengers had been quietly removed from Apex charter flights before boarding. All 3 were black. All 3 had valid, paid, confirmed bookings. All 3 had been handed the same language: a booking error, a security protocol, a misunderstanding, wrapped in the same professional smile, delivered in the same measured tone, designed to make a person feel like the problem was theirs. None of the 3 had pushed back publicly. None had known they had legal standing. All 3 had simply gathered their bags and walked away, recalibrating in silence, the way people do when a system tells them, once again, where their limits are. Sandra Cole's name appeared in 2 of the 3 incident reports. Hardrobe's name appeared in all 3. Raymond kept his voice steady as he spoke, but Marcus could hear what was underneath it: the specific exhaustion of a man who had built something and was only now discovering what had been growing inside its walls. There was an internal messaging thread, a flagged communication channel where certain crew members had been using coded language to identify passengers they deemed non-standard and route them quietly toward removal before boarding. It was not official policy. It had never been written into any manual or memo, but it had been operating, undisturbed, unreported, unchallenged, for at least 7 months. Nobody had stopped it. Nobody had even named it. Marcus listened to all of it without speaking. Then he closed the tablet gently and turned to the window. 34,000 feet below, 3 states blurred past in silence. He thought about the 3 people who had come before him, not as abstractions, but as individuals. People who had confirmed their bookings, who had arrived on time, who had done everything right and still been made to feel like a mistake. He thought about what that costs a person, not just the flight, but the quiet erosion of it. The way you adjust your expectations downward, degree by degree, every time the world confirms its smallest suspicions about you. Then he picked up his phone and called his attorney, James Whitfield. It was 1:33 a.m. James answered on the second ring. "Pull everything," Marcus said. "Every record, every log, every name on that thread. We're not filing a complaint, James." A pause. "What are we filing?" Marcus looked out at the dark sky, steady, unbothered, vast. What James Whitfield finds inside those records over the next 6 days will make national news. But none of that, not the headlines, not the federal inquiry, not the names in the report, is what finally breaks Marcus Webb open. It's something far smaller, far quieter. And it happens in a hospital waiting room at 10:31 in the morning. The jet landed at BWI at 5:31 a.m. Marcus was in a car by 5:38. He walked through the Johns Hopkins surgery wing doors at 5:47 a.m., 16 minutes before the pre-op window closed, still wearing the black t-shirt from the tarmac, duffel bag over the same shoulder, moving with the quiet urgency of a man who had crossed 3 states and 11 fired employees to be exactly here, exactly now. Dr. Patricia Osei met him in the hallway. She looked at him the way doctors look at fathers who have been running all night, taking inventory without asking questions. Then she nodded once. "She's been asking for you since midnight." Marcus followed her through 2 sets of double doors and into a room at the end of the corridor. Maya was in a pre-op bed, small against the white sheets, her hospital gown printed with tiny yellow stars. There were monitors beside her and a nurse in the corner, and the particular stillness of a room where something enormous is about to happen. Maya looked up the moment he stepped through the door. She didn't say a word. She just opened her arms. Marcus Webb, The man who stood on a tarmac for 19 minutes without flinching, who held a document steady while an entire crew unraveled around him, who kept his voice level at 1:33 in the morning when he had every right to break, sat on the edge of his daughter's bed and pulled her close. And for the first time since 11:14 p.m., his shoulders came down. A nurse stepped quietly to his side and held out a folded piece of paper. Maya had made it the evening before, a crayon drawing of an airplane, slightly lopsided, colored in blues and greens. Across the wing, in uneven 8-year-old letters, one word, Daddy. He folded it carefully, pressed it into his chest pocket, and he did not let go of his daughter's hand until they came to take her in. Maya's surgery lasted 3 hours and 22 minutes. Dr. Patricia Osei walked out of the OR at 10:31 a.m. and found Marcus exactly where she had left him. Same chair, same black t-shirt, hands folded, eyes fixed on the door. She didn't make him wait for the words. She did beautifully. Marcus exhaled, long and slow, releasing something he had been carrying since the moment Sandra Cole pointed her finger at his chest on a tarmac in Atlanta. He stepped outside into the morning light, leaned against the wall, and called James Whitfield. Whatever you find in those records, we use it so no father ever has to make that choice again. 6 weeks later, Apex Charter Group underwent full operational restructuring. Sandra Cole and Captain Hargrove faced federal civil rights complaints, the first filed against a private aviation company in 11 years. 3 passengers who had been quietly removed from earlier flights received formal apologies and full restitution. A new passenger protection protocol, the first of its kind in private aviation, was drafted and implemented across the entire Apex fleet. It carried no name on the cover page. Marcus never gave a press conference, never posted about it. The only thing he ever said publicly to a single reporter outside the federal courthouse in Atlanta was this: I wasn't fighting for myself that night. I was fighting for every person who ever stood somewhere they paid for and was told they didn't belong. And I was fighting for my daughter, so she grows up knowing her father never backed down. Maya, 9 years old by then, healthy and home and drawing airplanes at the kitchen table, had no idea her dad had changed an industry. She just knew he made it to the hospital. If Marcus Webb's story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for stories about real dignity, real courage, and real justice every single week. And drop a comment below. What would you have done on that tarmac?